Hey everybody, I'm John Peterson, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about light. Now, as photographers, you know that light is essential to what we do. We capture light on our photo sensors, on our film, whatever medium we choose to use. Light is an essential component of our photographs. But light can be so much more for us as photographers and as artists. And in today's video, I wanted to show you a couple of quick examples that you might use in your own post-processing to take good images and make them great, or take great images and make them even better by playing around a little bit with the light in your photographs. So let's jump in and take a look real quick, all right? All right, so I've got 3 images for you today, and all 3 of those were recently shot in Grand Teton National Park during my latest photo workshop. I had a great group out there. We had wonderful conditions, and I had 3 examples of how to use some light in photographs that I thought might be helpful for you. Now, this first example, you can see the bighorn sheep that I have up here on the screen. It's a great shot. I caught them at the right time when they were up in the rocks. Had some snow in the background. It's a really kind of nice shot. Very iconic kind of bighorn sheep shot. I like it. Everything's good technically. The one thing that I struggle with a little bit in this shot is that the color of the sheep is largely the same color as the surrounding landscape. And of course that's great for the sheep because it helps them blend into their environment a little bit more and less prone to predators. But for me, photographically, I would like to create a little bit more separation between the sheep and the landscape, so the sheep really stand out as the focal point. And I can use light and dark to do that. All right, let's just try this real quick. And I won't play around with editing the masks too much. And I know Lightroom's not going to do a super great job. But for the bits of this video, I will just kind of show you a little bit of what I do. So I want to select the background. I want to make it a little bit darker than the animals. So what I did was I selected my mask tool. Let's just go to background and we'll just select a little, we'll just clean up this mask just a little bit. So I'm subtracting my brush from the mask that was created. There's lots of videos that you can see on how to do this, and I do it in some of my videos as well that you can see my prior videos. But for here, I've got a good enough mask where I've got the background selected. So let's go ahead and drop the exposure a little bit. That's nice. So now let me go ahead and select the subject, and I want to brighten the subjects up just a little bit, and I want to add maybe just a little bit of warmth back to them. And you can see now that my we went from that to that, from that to that, and the sheep stand out so much more against the landscape. So just creating some light and dark separation is one way to get your subject to stand out, number one. Number two, it's another way to direct the eyes where you want people to look. We are conditioned and we're programmed to always look at the brightest part of an image. And so by making the animals brighter than their surroundings, that's where people are going to look. Okay? Let's jump into this next one. This is the Church of the Transfiguration in Grand Teton National Park. And it's not a great shot, but I took it as an example. So here's the shot with just a little bit of processing. I've got this fence and fence posts that kind of dominate the foreground, and I've got the church in the background. Tonally, things are largely the same. And as a viewer, I don't know whether to look at the fence or the church. I don't know what is the main subject. I largely took this photograph because of the fence. And oh, by the way, there's a church in the background. So I want to bring more of the focus onto the fence in the foreground. And one of the ways I can do that is by darkening the area behind the fence. So if I go to my masking tool and then go to linear gradient, and I'm just going to do this real quick and easy. If I put a linear gradient over the upper part of the image and drop the exposure down a little bit, and add just a little bit of color to it, it changes the focus point dramatically. Now I'm focused on the wood of the fence in the foreground, where here I was unsure, but with here I've brought the focal point forward because I've darkened the background. And this is more in line with the intent of the image that I was shooting and why I was shooting it. You know, if I wanted to have a church with a fence in the foreground, I would have a more neutral light and dark balance such as this, but of course I would have a different composition. But by using the light and the dark, I can keep people's focus a little bit more to the foreground. Okay, and then the last image I want to show you is these trees. Shooting ice-covered trees that are backlit by the sun is a fun thing to do. It's a great thing to do, especially in Grand Teton National Park. And really the focus of this shot is the light in the trees. That's why I took this. That's why I wanted what I want to show and what I want to highlight in a shot like this. Notice that I've got trees in the foreground and then I've got backlit trees in the background. So what I might do is take my brush and I might pop it up. If I want to increase the brightness a little bit here, I will create a mask for the foreground trees. And let's just pump up the whites just a little bit. And I'm starting to clip, which will take my highlights down some. Really make this a little bit more accentuated. Likewise, I have these trees in the background. Your first instinct might be to have the same tonality of these foreground trees and the background trees because they're all trees and I want them to all look similar. But you really have to pay attention to how light falls across the scene. And notice the trees in the background are not as bright as the trees in the foreground. They're not getting as much light. So if I wanted to make them jump a little bit more, I will create a second mask for these trees with a slightly different adjustment. So let me just do a quick mask. I'm just doing this with the brush just to make it quick and easy. But in this case, so if I try to make these the same tonality as the foreground trees, I could do it, but I would lose some depth in the image. And so I want these to be a little bit brighter, but not as bright as the foreground trees, because I want that depth. I want the user to go to the background, if at all possible. So the lesson here is really paying attention to where and how the light falls across the scene and make adjustments accordingly. All right, folks, there you go. There's just a couple of quick ideas of how you can use light in your photographs to create something even more special. Separate your subject from the background, change the focus point in a photograph, and create some depth in your photograph just by making small adjustments to the light in your composition. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. And other than that, keep shooting. Stay tuned for my next video. All right, bye-bye.